Happy Monday, everybody! You're listening to the Personal Playlist Podcast, fondly referred to as the P3. I'm Noah Daniel.
Music is a world within itself, with a language we all understand.
I am so excited to have Pav Wander here on the Personal Playlist Podcast. Pav is the other half, the completing half of a partnership. And if you listen for this entire time, then you know that it goes with another podcast that just aired this morning. But she is a force to be reckoned with unto herself. And I'm really excited to give you some information about who she is and how she arrived at this place on the P3. Pavan is an elementary school teacher with 15 years of experience, hailing from the same neighborhood where she and Chey currently teach. She teaches a grade 1-2 split class and has a real love for teaching science and math. She has run many programs at school involving robotics and engineering, as well as hosting and preparing students for several math competitions. Along with her former teaching partner, Chey Cheney, Pav co-hosts a podcast called the Staffroom Podcast, as well as a live educational music radio show on Voice Ed Radio called The Drive. Welcome to the show, Pav.
Thank you so much, Noah, for having me and for that lovely, lovely introduction. I think you gave me way too much credit.
But let's talk for a moment about the Staffroom Podcast and how it began.
Sure, absolutely. So it actually started not this past school year, but the school year before. And it was, I didn't have a homeroom class of my own, but Chey did. And I had a former, not a former friend, but a former schoolmate who reached out to me and said, you know, I've got this successful podcast and I want to do something to give back to the community. So what ideas do you have? We went to school in the same area where I'm teaching. So, you know, he knew that I was teaching in the area and he said, give me some ideas. What do you want to do? And I said, well, you've got a podcast. Let's bring podcasting to the school. Let's, teach students about podcasting. I knew that Chey was doing this amazing project in his class every year called Genius Hour, where he would give students the opportunity to research anything that they wanted, anything that they were passionate about. And so we turned this into the Passion Project podcast. And students did their research on a topic that they wanted and they recorded the podcast. When we went to the studio to actually record, we did a little preamble where Chey and I were asked to do a little bit of talking with the two hosts. And it turned into a 45-minute episode of its own. We had so much to say. We had so much to talk about and we loved that process. And it was after that day that we decided we need to be doing this. We need to be doing more of this. And so we got their help and they gave us some microphones and they gave us an opportunity. They said, let's get started. Let's do this. And then that was it. So a year ago yesterday was our 1-year anniversary of our very first pilot episode. And the rest is essentially history. We've been doing that for a year now and it's been fantastic.
Well, happy podcast anniversary. That's very exciting. And I did not know you had a P3 of your own. So I'm excited that the Passion Project podcast was the catalyst that you needed to find your voices. And I know so many people listen all the time to the engaging things that you guys unpack and to the guests that you have on the show. But then the drive, like you wanted to add something else to your very busy plate. How did that come to be?
We didn't actually know that we needed to add the drive to our plate, but
you did.
But we did. We did need to add it to our plate. It was very necessary, and essentially it came from Stephen Hurley reaching out to us and saying, you know, how would you guys like to put your podcast on Voice Ed Radio? And he was, you know, gathering some podcasts to add to the repertoire of Voice Ed Radio and said, you know, I'd love to air it on Voice Ed. And so we said, yes, absolutely. Let's go ahead. But we didn't know anything really about Voice Ed. And then we started listening to the doc on Saturday night with Stephen. And he said, hey, call in if you get a chance. And we were so nervous. We were like, call into the radio. And so we did. And, you know, our hearts were beating through our chest. We were so nervous to be on live radio. And it was so thrilling. It was so much fun to talk to Stephen. We kind of just, you know, brought up with him, hey, what if what if we did something live? And he just kind of threw out this idea, hey, would you like some airtime? And yes, of course we would. That would be amazing. So Stephen actually came to the school to help us learn how to broadcast, because we were like, let's do this, and why don't you give us the autonomy to do this on our own so that we can broadcast, from our classroom and sort of do this in a way where we don't necessarily need you to be holding our hand through the entire process. So he came to the school. He gave us his awesome old condenser mics, which is what we are still using to record the podcast and for broadcasting. And he told us he loaded up the software and he said, this is how you use it. And this is how you go on air. And then gave us some really great tips on recording. So because of him, we bought the Rodecaster, which we now use as our soundboard to do the podcast and for the drive, and taught us everything. And he kind of really helped us along the way. And the drive initially started as a 30-minute show just before school started on Friday mornings. This is when we were in regular school. So we did a couple of shows at that, 30 minutes from 8 to 8:30, just before the bell went, in the back of Chey's classroom. We got maybe 3 or 4 songs in the entire show. And then as soon as COVID hit, we had a little bit more time. So we stretched from 30 minutes to an hour. An hour became an hour and a half, then 2 hours, and then 2.5 hours we were broadcasting. So it really evolved into this space where, we loved having everybody listening and interacting with us live. We loved having people being part of that space with us. And it to this day, to this moment, it still gives us this energy. Like, it's Thursday. We are so ready for tomorrow morning and getting ready for our show tomorrow. And we spend all of Thursday evenings just putting everything out there, all the themes, and, gathering all the music and getting all the requests and putting it together. It truly is that Friday morning when we're broadcasting live. It truly is our favorite. And so that's how it started, and that's how it evolved. And we're so excited for where it's going to go from here.
It's amazing. And it's really impressive. I've been doing a live show with Stephen for 4 years. We're going into our 4th season. It's been 3 years, and I don't know how to do it at all. I've talked about it, but I've never done it. And I'm so impressed because he's talked about teaching me how, and I'm a little busy, but you guys are a little busy too, and you made it happen. But let's talk about that 8 o'clock to 8:30 slot, because on Mondays, that's my time on Voice Ed Radio, and that is when this is going to air. And I like on Music Mondays that people have this half an hour snapshot into people's lives. So I asked you to bring me a nostalgic identity and pick me up song. Tell me a little bit about the process of choosing those songs and what music means to you.
So I loved the guiding prompts that you provided, because for me, that was really it. I put myself in the space using those prompts, and, there were a couple of things that stood out in every prompt, and immediately something came to me, or a particular theme that I wanted to explore a little bit further with the music came to me. And I used that to sort of guide me into picking a song that best represents that feeling. So, that was a really great way for me to choose the songs. And it's not really necessarily all 3 songs are like absolute favorite songs that are always on repeat for me, but they're songs that definitely have some sort of meaning, either through the lyrics or the memory that they hold, or, just a feeling that gets evoked when I listen to them. So, they're not necessarily favorite songs. They're just songs that I attach to a particular feeling or memory or something specific that you said in your prompt that has really been a big part of my growth, either in this past year or in the last few years, because, this last couple of years, especially this one last year, has been huge, monumental in my personal growth, and even my growth as an educator. So that's what I used. And I love those prompts because they really helped me to, narrow down what I wanted, because it's a very tough decision to just pick 3 songs that mean something to you, because I'm going back into my past and thinking about when I was young and what songs were meaningful to me back then. So, that's the strategy that I used.
Okay, well, let's start with back then.
Okay.
You had to come up with a nostalgic song, a throwback. So what is the then that you conjured to determine this song?
So I went all the way back to grade 8. And this is what I would consider to be my breakout year. And it sounds so silly because, well, grade 8, you're 13, 14 years old. That can't be your breakout. But that was the year that I finally decided to do something that was outside of my comfort zone. And I auditioned for our school musical at the time. And my grade 8 teacher that year was instrumental in making that happen. She was the producer. She was the writer. She was the everything behind this musical. She wrote it, and it was called We Are Family. And it was really just a mixture of a bunch of different musicals that she loved. And she wrote a script working her way around all of those musicals. So it involved music from her favorite musicals. And it was called We Are Family. And We Are Family was kind of like by Sister Sledge was really the theme song for the entire show. And we did 2 live shows in the evening. And I had one of the starring roles, which to me was unbelievable because I didn't think I had a great voice. And a singing voice. But I had a voice that could project, and I was determined, and it was something out of my comfort zone. So it was a big deal for me because I was very shy growing up, very quiet, didn't want to do anything that involved public speaking. So for me, that was my nostalgic song because especially thinking about what I'm doing now with the Drive and the Staffroom Podcast, this is something that, was so out of my comfort zone that I never thought that I would do something like this. So We Are Family by Sister Sledge is definitely my nostalgic song.
Okay, well, let's play it. It's amazing that this song tells the story of your past, because as I'm listening to it, I'm thinking about Chey's P3, and he talked about being the Andrew Ridgeley to your George Michael. And I think that your ethos is so much more than, just Jim Guida Wonder Woman, but really about family and the feeling that you get, that you give off. I mean, that you get as a listener, but that you give off as hosts of the Drive in particular, but also the Staffroom Podcast, is that everybody that comes into the experience is part of this family. So it's really amazing to listen to you say it about your past. But now we're at the song that talks about you as a person. So what does that song say about you?
So I chose the song I'm Every Woman by Shaka Khan. And, at first I'm re-listening, I'm listening to the lyrics, and I'm like, okay, well, it's not so much about my sort of self-indulgence or myself sort of talking about how I'm this powerful woman who can do it all. It wasn't actually about that. I'm thinking about this being a woman. I mean, I think that, and you can likely relate, Noah, that there's so much that we deal with as human beings, but as women especially. And I'm not special. Like I have this platform. I speak to the public, and it's something that sometimes is very humbling to think about the fact that that I have this platform and I can use my voice in this way, but I'm not actually very special. I'm just like every other woman who has to deal with all of the things that we have to deal with, career, family, and just, finding ourselves and giving ourselves the permission to live our lives as well. I don't single myself out as somebody who fights for the ability to be able to do that. We all do that. And through this journey that we've gone through, this journey that I've gone through as a female podcaster in this past year, I've really learned that doesn't matter what we are doing, whether we're podcasting or not, or writing blogs or not, or, designing websites or not, we're all dealing with all kinds of stuff. And we fight every single day to be able to accomplish all the things that we want to accomplish. And so I'm not special. And I feel like I don't need to say that, but it's something that I've struggled with over this last year as Chey and I have sort of gained this popularity amongst educators, amongst podcasters. There's nothing about me that's above anybody else. I'm just like every other woman. And so this is the sort of the song that I wanted to put out there because yes, I have the privilege of a microphone in front of me, but the things that I deal with are the same things that every woman deals with. And so I'm Every Woman by Chaka Khan is the song that I wanted to highlight.
I appreciate what you're saying and the connections that you're making. And I think that, as women, we do have many things in common. And certainly as somebody that does many things in education and has 3 children, I can relate a lot to what you're saying, but you are special. I mean, every person is unique and has a special gift, but because, since grade 8, you found your voice, you have been cultivating your ability to use that. And so what aligns you with other women, hopefully, is that you feel good about standing up and saying, I'm proud to be me, as opposed to having to mute yourself in order to accommodate other people in a space. And I think that you have to celebrate that you have special abilities and unique contributions. And it's not something that puts you above other people. We can have students and they're all special, but they're all special in their own ways. Mm-hmm. And I think it's important to take time to recognize and celebrate that and not apologize for it. I know what makes me different. And sometimes I make fun of that part of myself, but I feel so great about building paths to be that and to live that. And I hope, anyway, I don't mean to critique it. I just hope it's another perspective on maybe yes. You are special and that's okay.
Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. You're right, Noah. I know that as women, I think that we deal with this little side of us that is that little bit of guilt as well. Right. And that kind of sometimes comes with the process, but it's something that we have to work to get over. So I totally, absolutely respect your perspective. And I see where you're coming from with that as well.
And I mean, Chaka Khan, you got to listen to her.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's listen to her. I'm Every Woman.
It's all
other camaraderie I feel listening to this song is like, I think women do understand that part of being a woman is being able to do things, like just many things at one time.
Yes.
That other people just can't do. We have that inside of us somehow naturally, and maybe some more than others, but it really has been amplified during the pandemic, I've found.
Yes, I 100% agree with you. We just became every role, I think. And so, yeah, it was, I think, a perfect song to represent me.
I'm glad that you feel that way, but you know, we're in strange times, and everybody kind of needs an opportunity to pick themselves up if they need to. And so you chose a song that is actually more motivational, I think, than Pick Me Up, because it's about something bigger than ourselves. And I'd love to know how you chose it of all the possible songs you could have brought for this category.
Yeah, I think that this was probably the toughest decision for me, because I don't know what picks me up sometimes, you know, like there's lots of really great motivational music, or music that, you know, is upbeat and really gets you going and revved up. You know, I'm thinking about like the Rocky theme music and how it really just gets you revved and ready to go. But I wanted a song that really was cathartic more than anything else. And not to say that I like to dwell in my sad feelings, but sometimes it really helps to know that other people have gone through those low moments and can articulate those low moments through their art, and have you feeling that same feeling, or at least being empathetic to the feeling that they might have had when they wrote that song. So the song that I chose was Andra Day, Rise Up. And every time I listen to that song, I get very emotional, because it really makes me feel like any low moments that you might have gone through, there's somebody else who has gone through low moments, and we can elevate ourselves out of them. We can get out of them. And it just gives me the feeling of having a shared experience with somebody else, and understanding that, yes, I'm having a very low moment. Yes, I should, sort of soak it in almost, and appreciate this low moment, because you are going to get out of it, and you're going to come out of it. And you can also appreciate the fact that other people have as well. And so that's the feeling that I get from this song. And I was also thinking about the video for this song. If you haven't seen the music video, you should watch it. It's very moving, and it's heartbreaking, and it just gets me in the feels. You know, sometimes you just want those feels, and it's one of those songs that really helps me to understand my low moments, and to not feel bad for having those low moments.
No, there are gut-wrenching parts of it for sure, but it's good to get choked up sometimes from a song, because there is that release at the end of that, and there is that feeling that you're not alone.
Right.
So let's play it. Audra Day, Rise Up.
You're broken down and tired of living life on the merry-go-round, and you can't find a fighter, but I see it in you, so we gon' walk it out. Move mountains, we gon' walk it out, and move mountains. And I'll rise like the day. I'll rise up, I'll rise unafraid. I'll rise up, and I do it 1,000 times again. And I'll rise up, I like the waves. I'll rise up, in spite of the ache. I'll rise up, and I do it 1,000 times again. The silence isn't quiet, and it feels like it's getting hard to breathe. And I know you feel like dying, but I promise we'll take the world to its feet. Move mountains, bring it to its feet. Move mountains, and I'll rise up. I'll rise like the day. I'll rise up. I'll rise unafraid. I'll rise up, and I do it 1,000 times again.
How do you feel about sharing your 3 songs with me?
I loved it. It's a little piece of me. So sometimes it feels personal, but at the same time, it feels like we're having, a conversation between friends and sharing something personal. So I love it.
That's really what I love so much about the show. And I'm so grateful that you took the time to come on. I've been getting to know you guys over the last year, and I look forward to many opportunities to connect. Where can people find you?
So we are very active on Twitter. Our main Twitter handle is @Staff Podcast, and Chey and I both will respond to you, probably both of us separately. And so that's a great place to reach us. @The Drive Voice Ed is our Drive handle. And then my personal handle is @Pav Wander.
Okay, well, I'm looking forward to listening on Fridays in the morning and whenever I see a Staffroom Podcast ready to drop another episode. But I'm excited for all things to come. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. Is there anything you want to add before I play you out?
No, that's everything. I do want to say thank you so much, Noah. It has been a pleasure getting to know you as well as it has been with the entire Voice Ed community. And it really is such an amazing space. And we're so blessed to have met you and gotten to know you in the past year.
I kind of want to sing We Are Family back to you, but I'm just going to play it with my closing. I hope you have a great day.
Thanks, you too, Noah.
Thank you for joining us on the P3, the Personal Playlist Podcast. I'm Noah Daniel. This is Voice Ed Radio, and I hope you have a fantastic day.